Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, I don't need your business. Thanks.
I don't need your business. You know what? Maybe Disney does. Maybe you're a tool, you're a pawn in this film. You didn't write it. You didn't direct it. You have nothing to do with the creation of Snow White. Right. You should shut up and do the job.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
Weird.
In recent months, Disney's live-action remake of Snow White has been a topic of conversation, but not for the right reasons. The movie, which was projected to be a box office hit, has instead been nothing short of a financial disaster for the studio. While Snow White did cross the $200 million mark globally, the figures are misleading, especially when we consider its massive budget. The movie has been considered a flop in Hollywood terms, and Disney is feeling the burn of this costly miscalculation. But what went wrong? Let's start with the high cost of making Snow White. Estimates put the production budget of the film at around $260 to $269 million. But if we include all the reshoots and other behind-the-scenes expenses, it could easily be over $300 million. On top of that, Disney reportedly spent an additional $100 million on marketing, a figure that brings the movie's total costs to somewhere around $400 million. That's a massive amount of money riding on a single movie. Even with a global box office gross of over $200 million, the movie is still far from profitable. Here's where the trouble begins. You see, Disney didn't just rely on the usual formula for a live-action remake of a beloved animated classic. They decided to take a huge risk by casting Rachel Zegler in the lead role of Snow White.
A promo tweet with a political statement. As a result, Mark Platt flew to New York to speak with her in person.
I'll quickly mention this. The son of Snow White producer Mark Platt, Jonah Platt is the son's name. He is speaking out publicly against Rachel Zegler and blaming her for the film's catastrophic failure at the box office.
Zegler, best known for her performance in the 2021 remake of West Side Story, was still a relatively unknown quantity in Hollywood when she was tapped for this iconic role. While she had garnered some attention for her singing and acting abilities, she hadn't proven herself at the box office as a bankable star. Yet, Hollywood seemed determined to push her into the spotlight, treating her as the next big thing. It's clear that the casting of Zegler was part of a broader strategy by Disney to revitalize the Snow White franchise, but the results were far from what they expected. The film's poor reception, both from critics and audiences, is undeniable. The movie holds a dismal 37% rating from critics on Rotten Tomatoes, and while the audience score is slightly higher at 72%.
Right there, zoom in right there, that's it. 163,000 rating, of which it got 1.6, not out of 5.
I mean, that is just far from a graceful Disney princess-like promotion. It's far from what you would think Disney wanted.
I think Rachel Zegler was miscast. I'm not trying to be shady, but when you see the pictures of her as Snow White, you're like, that's Snow White? She doesn't look happy, she's not really smiling.
Many believe this number may be inflated. In short, the audience reaction to Snow White was lukewarm at best, with many feeling disconnected from the story and its characters. What's even more frustrating for Disney is that they had already alienated a large portion of their audience before the film even hit theaters. Zegler made headlines when she openly criticized the original Snow White animated movie, calling it outdated and problematic. For many fans of the original, Zegler's comments didn't sit well, and this left them hesitant to support a movie that seemed to dismiss the legacy of the 1937 classic. Now, let's talk about the financial aspect of the situation. Disney was hoping for Snow White to be a massive commercial success, one that could potentially gross over $600 million globally. But with a production and marketing budget that could exceed $400 million, the film would need to rake in at least $500 million worldwide just to break even. So far, that doesn't seem likely. After box office cuts, marketing expenses, and other costs, Disney is likely looking at a loss of around $200 million. Even if the film sees a small surge in the coming weeks, it will be hard to recover those losses. If this weren't bad enough, Rachel Zegler's career has taken another hit. She's now starring in the London West End production of Evita at the London Palladium, but ticket sales are dismal. For performances in June, there are still plenty of tickets available. This suggests that Zegler is struggling to generate interest and demand, both for her as a performer and for the productions she's involved in. It's hard not to draw parallels between her box office struggles and the difficulties she's facing in the theater world. It's clear that Zegler's star power isn't as strong as Hollywood had hoped. But here's the thing, this is not just about Zegler's acting ability. It's about Hollywood's flawed approach to creating stars. There's a certain disconnect between what the studios want and what the audiences actually care about. Hollywood is constantly on the lookout for the next big thing, pushing actors into high-profile roles before they've had time to build a real fanbase. This is exactly what happened with Zegler. She was thrust into one of the most iconic roles in film history before she had a chance to prove herself as a commercial draw. And the result was a box office disaster. It's important to note that Zegler isn't the first actor to be miscast in a high-profile role. Hollywood has a long history of making star-making decisions that don't always work out. Think of Jai Courtney, a talented actor who was cast in a series of blockbuster films, yet never truly became the star Hollywood expected him to be. Or Sam Worthington, who was pushed into the spotlight after his performance in Avatar, only to see his career stall after the film's massive success. These miscalculations show just how difficult it is to create a star, and that the process cannot be rushed. So what went wrong with Zegler? There are a few key factors at play. First, Hollywood tried to force her into stardom. Unlike actors like Florence Pugh, Zendaya, and Timothée Chalamet, who built their careers slowly, taking on smaller roles in indie films before moving on to larger, blockbuster projects, Zegler was immediately thrust into a massive, high-budget film. That strategy, while bold, ignored the importance of a steady build-up to stardom. These younger actors took their time, cultivating their talents and fanbases in a more organic way. Zegler, on the other hand, was placed in the spotlight too quickly without the opportunity to establish a lasting connection with audiences. Another problem lies in how Hollywood is trying to market Zegler. While it's true that she has received critical praise for some of her performances, particularly in West Side Story, she hasn't yet proven herself as a box office draw. And despite being touted as a Golden Globe winner and Hollywood's next big thing, Zegler's box office track record doesn't match the hype. The numbers just aren't there. In fact, her roles so far have not generated the kind of commercial success one would expect from an actress being groomed to be a global superstar. Hollywood needs to rethink how it's approaching the star-making process. Instead of pushing actors into lead roles in expensive, high-stakes films, the industry should allow them to take on smaller, supporting roles in well-regarded projects. This would give them the opportunity to build their careers and develop their audience organically. For Zegler, this could mean stepping back from the pressure of leading major productions and focusing on more intimate, character-driven roles that allow her to showcase her talent. At the end of the day, the case of Rachel Zegler and Snow White is a clear example of Hollywood's flawed star-making process. The industry needs to understand that stars aren't made overnight. It takes time, patience, and the right projects. The rush to create the next big thing may seem appealing, but it often leads to failure. And in the case of Snow White, it has resulted in a financial loss for Disney and a missed opportunity for Zegler to truly shine. The larger question remains, will Hollywood learn from this? Will they continue to force-feed audiences stars who haven't yet earned their place? Or will they take a step back and let actors grow at their own pace? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear, the industry needs to rethink its approach to stardom and understand that not every actor is ready to carry the weight of a major film franchise. As for Rachel Zegler, her career may not be over. In fact, she's incredibly talented and has a bright future ahead of her. If Hollywood gives her the chance to grow, she needs to be allowed to take on roles that build her credibility and her fanbase, rather than being pushed into leading roles too soon. Time will tell whether she can rebound from this misstep, but for now, Snow White will stand as a case study of how not to make a star.